It's good. Well, first off, I missed you guys. So let's knock this out of the park, and then I'm going to miss you guys even more over a long summer. Um, but start off, want to wish Chip and his crew, obviously, great luck at the College World Series, and Fred Harvey and his crew, great luck at Nationals. Pretty cool that both of them are having such great success. All right, let's do this.
Question. I think we all want to know about all the spring transition you've done, but also what you're doing in camp ahead. I mean, do you want to start somewhere, or what's what's on your mind?
So, it's a pretty open-ended question, Bruce, to start off a press conference. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's college basketball. There's a lot of moving parts, in an off season now. When you talk about transfer portal, NIL, the house settlement, scheduling. It's a lot of moving parts, and it makes for a pretty eventful few months. But you work yourself through it, and you're trying to do the best job to set your next team up for success. And so yeah, you're all in, fully engaged. From basically, April through May, into June, and then hopefully by that point you've kind of got a little more certainty on how things are going to look, and you're ready to operate accordingly.
To that point, you must like the way you've composed the roster and how it looks right now.
Yeah, no, I feel good. I feel good about where we're at. Obviously our staff did a great job, putting together a really good recruiting class. I think it's going to allow us to be competitive and play at the level, we aspire to play at, which is obviously at a championship level. So I'm really comfortable with that. It's a great group of young men, but, we're also going to miss some of the guys that left. We had a lot of guys that had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this program, and we really, really valued their contributions. But as in life, you have to move forward. So we're excited to move forward with this new crew.
With as many freshmen as you're going to have on this team, are you anticipating that there will be growing pains at the outset?
Well, I think as a coach, no matter what level of experience you have, you anticipate there's going to be growing pains. I mean, that's just part of the process. We'll see. We'll see. How seasoned and how ready some of those freshmen are. But we're also going to count on a really good core group of returners. We think we got a lot of guys that have a lot of good experience and are good players, and have great leadership qualities. So I think it's going to be a good mix of young guys and old. And I know there's so much focus now on transfer portal, NIL, but I think one of the ways we kind of looked at it and assessed it as a staff was, you can't predict the future, but the one thing we did kind of know going into the season was that this was going to be the fifth season post-COVID. And, so a lot of those kids that were granted that automatic, waiver for the extra year of eligibility, that was going to dry up. So at some point, you got to, recruit some younger players. And so we kind of put the two things together, and obviously we had some younger players we really liked and felt like we were doing well enough recruiting-wise that it was the right path for us to take.
The Rutgers.
Oh, with all the even so, did you anticipate the buzz about the transfer portal NIL kind of blowing up the way it did nationally? And did you ever think? Did you think you had enough to go international?
I think you look down, you look down every avenue. Whether it's transfer, international, high school, and you figure out where you feel like you can get the best player, for your team. But did I anticipate basically the market going as crazy as it did? I mean, obviously I didn't. I don't know. I think everybody thought that there might be a little bump, but to the level it did bump. I don't think anybody could have predicted that. And it's it kind of fortunately, I think we were able to, thankfully with the help of our athletic department, participate in a level that's going to allow us to be competitive. And that's what this program deserves. And now we got to be good stewards with it. And we got to do a good job, make disciplined decisions, and make sure we do a great job, developing a culture and coaching these guys on a day-to-day basis to obviously try to get the best performance we can out of what we were able to get through our recruiting efforts.
You
You mentioned the schedule, getting the schedule final. It's just a mentality, one of the hardest schedules in the country.
I think you guys say that every year. Okay. So yeah. I mean, obviously, it's a great schedule. One of the other things I'm excited about is we're able to, we haven't obviously announced the schedule yet because there's still some kinks to be worked out. But we were able to add another home date. Again, giving us 19 home dates. Which is great. Anytime we can play in McHale, it's a good thing. And obviously, we know our games are well attended, so it's a great another opportunity for our athletic department to generate some revenue off another home game. So we're excited about that. As for our non-conference schedule, yeah, I mean it's a great opportunity for our program, and we played a tough one. I think we have almost every year, and for our first few years here, we kind of hit it right, and we won some of those games. Last year we didn't, but we still ended up okay. So I think testing your team is important. Obviously we want to win some of those games. And we feel like if you're able to win some of those games, things maybe feel a little bit different. And now you are staring at a high seed. And I think somebody showed me the stat. I think it was Nate, but basically in our 4 years here, our average seed's 2.25, which is, the only team higher is Houston. I think we were tied with Purdue. And, and obviously, that's important. The next thing is continuing to take steps in the game. And, you don't advance in a tournament on a seed. You advance in a tournament by winning games. And so, that's obviously a focus down the line for us is continuing to get high seeds and then, punching our way through. And we feel like we've got the right formula. And, we're going to continue to push the envelope with our schedule and challenge our team. And hopefully it's a team that's, prepared to play good basketball in March.
How's Mo doing physically?
Mo's good. Mo's pretty much involved in everything. I think he's been fully cleared, but it's still early June. So, we're probably, taking our time and ramping him up slowly. We obviously don't play a game for a few months. So we want him, for the long haul because he's an important player.
When you have a big man like that with a lower body injury and all that, do you have to take a different approach because of the possibility of re-injure?
Well, I don't know. What's the possibility? Do you know?
It seems like the big guys tend to, when they have a foot or ankle.
Listen, we had a great training staff. We got great doctors. And they were able to get Mo with one of the best surgeons in the world. And, so listen, if you've ever been in a room with people that are a lot smarter than you at something, this would be a case where these guys are a lot smarter than I am with how to handle Mo and his recovery. And I think they're doing a great job. And when they talk, I listen and execute. That's honestly as simple as it is. So I think they're doing a great job with how they're approaching it.
Back to Lithuania all the summer, is he here the whole time to work?
I'm sure he'll go back for a little vacation. You got to see his families. No national team.
Go ahead.
What are your expectations for Dwayne Arizona?
Be a really good player. Dwayne's really talented. I think he's maybe been forgotten about. Which is crazy to say. Dwayne, had a maybe a injury similar to kind of what Mo had, and basically it cost him his senior year in high school. And Dwayne is talented enough and was playing on a big enough stage. If he went and played well, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility for him to be a McDonald's All-American. But he didn't play, so people obviously have kind of maybe forgot about him a little bit. So I'm excited to see his contributions. Dwayne is, he's got great size. He's got great strength. I think he has really good potential physicality-wise. He's got a good skill level. So, there's nothing that tells me that, he's going to be a long-term development project. I think he's going to be, pretty ready from day one.
And is he fully cleared at this point? Or
Yes and yes.
What lesson from last season are you carrying into this upcoming season?
I think you take away, obviously everyone wants to go negative first, but I think the first thing I take is positive, that you can get knocked down and get back up and still have a good season and give your team a chance to advance in the tournament. And obviously we got knocked down early, and our guys and our staff showed a great character, great resilience. Kind of the ability to adapt on the fly, and I think those things are really valuable. So for me, that's a lesson. You're okay. You know, you don't need to just totally panic and think that, failure is inevitable. I mean, you can always work your way out of it. So to me, that was a lesson I learned on the positive side.
Do you anticipate anything, the difficulty with international players getting in, given the climate?
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's a crazy time. I mean, you turn on the news, and obviously we got some work to do in that area. So we're paying close attention, and we're gonna make sure we're in contact with the right people to give a couple of these guys we have coming over a chance.
You touched on it a little bit earlier, but what are the initial thoughts on the NCAA settlement?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't form hard opinions on this stuff. I'm a coach, and not that I'm not smart enough to figure it out or think about it, but I'm somebody who, you let me know what the rules are, and I'm going to figure out how to work with the rules and within the rules to make our program successful. So I just want to know what the parameters are. That's all I care about. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I disagree with that, because what does that really do in that moment for me? Because no one cares if I disagree with something and I'm right. If our team's losing, no one cares. So like my team is judged on our performance, and so I got to focus on how to make our team perform better. We have a staff that's a lot smarter than me within this athletic department at figuring that stuff out, and I'm just going to follow their lead.
You leave tomorrow, I guess, or later today for Colorado Springs? For you?
I'm not telling you my flight schedule.
Well, just thoughts on this second go-around with it, and having the opportunity to coach one of your future players here at Arizona with Koa?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm excited. Obviously, it's a great honor to anytime you're able to represent, your country or USA basketball in any capacity. So I'm excited. I feel a little bit more comfortable this go-around. Haven't been through it one time. And we'll see if that helps. We have 30 really talented young men, reporting to camp this weekend, and the tryouts are going to be tough. You got to go from 30 to 12, and I don't think anybody that's never been through it or witnessed it, really understands. I mean, you're dealing with, I think USA Basketball told me an amazing stat that something like, of the guys that get cut, like 38% of them still get drafted in the NBA. And you're looking at these young men, older kids, whatever you want to call them, that have been the best of the best their whole life at what they do, and now they're put in a situation where they walk in a room and over 50% of them are going to be told, here's a ticket to go home. So it makes for a really interesting atmosphere, but it's really cool because these kids are kind of able to put away maybe maybe some of the bravado, and they have to get out there and they compete. And USA Basketball is a great setting if you want to just watch really good young basketball players compete. And Koa, obviously he's a veteran of FIBA basketball and USA Basketball. But Koa, he's going to have to earn his way on the team like everyone else. And there's a lot of other good guys, that he's going to be competing against. So I'm looking forward to getting back there and getting settled in with our staff, and then the players show up and getting to work. And then once it starts, man, it hits hard. I mean, it's hard and fast for, 2.5, 3 weeks. It's an everyday around the clock deal. It's no Sunday at Tucson Country Club. I mean, it's on. So I'm looking forward to getting started, and I think I've done a good job, building up my energy and my endurance for it, and yeah. So I'm excited to get going.
Have you been to Switzerland before?
I have. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but I've been in Switzerland. So I think my family's looking more forward to it than I am, because they're probably gonna get a chance to do stuff. I probably am not gonna get much of a chance to do stuff.
The roster's a lot better than your U18 camp roster was last year. I mean, a bigger deal, obviously, a bigger stage, the World Cup. Was that expected you'd be able to get those kind of guys?
I don't know if it's better. I mean, we had a good team last year. We had a really good team last year. So we'll see. I mean, that's what happens in what's happened this summer. It just kind of how it works is when last summer how the USA or how FIBA basketball works is you do like a qualifier, Tournament America is like U16, and the teams that qualify for U16 go to U17. Okay, and so how they work it, they do a U18 qualifier and a U17 World Championship. So last year, a lot of the kids on the U17, FIBA World Championship team that Koa played on, were also eligible to play 18s, but they just don't play on two teams. So now when you go to 19s, you kind of combine the 18s and the 17s from last year. That's why maybe the roster, just that some of the invites look a little different.
What can you tell us about your new assistant coach?
Brandon's a great guy. Obviously, we'll start with Coach Rob. I mean, Coach Rob, man, we had a great retirement party for him a few days ago, and he knocked it out of the park, just in our kind of intimate setting, and just a great man, and he kind of keeps to himself, so I don't know how well some of you guys got to know him, but just we're so thankful that, he was by my side to start out my head coaching career. And just with us the last 4 years. He's fun to be around every day, and he's got great perspective, and he's seen so many things. And I'll always be thankful because, it would have been easy as a, more experienced coach. He's more experienced than I am. He'd been a head coach. He's, been on, more Final Fours, more national championships. He really gave me space to be myself and kind of develop and what I needed to be as a head coach. And he didn't he didn't come in and try to really squelch anything. I mean, but he also, he told me in certain moments that, to think about certain things. So I really, really appreciated his wisdom. So he decides to retire, and, Brandon is somebody, we kind of had our eye on for a while. And, Brandon is, you guys are going to love him. He's got the juice. He's got the energy. He has great energy. He's, got great character. He wants to be, part of a staff. So he's got a great team essence about him. And he's a good coach, and he's excited to become a better coach. So, I've been really excited, about the energy that he's going to bring. And, this spring was kind of, a little bit jagged, with him, moving and kind of, getting his stuff over from Austin, and, me kind of being in and out, and, a vacation here and there and this and that, and, a family wedding, things like that. So, we really haven't got to connect like on a day-to-day level on the court for an extended period of time. And I'm looking forward to that when I get back this summer, is, being with him on the court every single day and kind of learning for each other and getting him ready to roll, because I think he's going to be a significant contributor in a lot of facets.
What's it to get somebody with Texas ties and is familiar with the Big 12 landscape?
I literally had nothing to do with me making my decision. And, I feel like Arizona's a national, international brand. And, there are a lot of good players in Texas. It's got a lot of people there and a lot of talented athletes. So for sure, you're going to go recruit Texas. But, I don't think we're trying to hire a guy for Texas to own the state of Texas. There's a lot of other good schools in Texas. So, you might be able to get a guy here and there out of Texas, but I don't know if you're going to go develop necessarily a pipeline. So, I think Brandon's somebody who's really comfortable recruiting all over the place. And so I was just excited about that, but more just excited about him as a person. And, he's got a beautiful young family, and, he's fired up to be in Tucson. And, sometimes when it's right. He and I had some initial conversations, and he was very consistent from day one that Arizona was the place he wanted to be.
Follow up on Steve's question earlier about the international guys. With Mabil specifically, with that Sudan situation, he indicated he was confident that the negotiations were going well or whatever, but is that I don't know if you plugged into that as far with Sudan and the U.S. and if they were going to...
Listen, I don't know, but he's already over here on a student visa, so usually you can just transfer that I-20 into another institution's, unless it's changed. But to me, he's not even a name that we've really brought up in this process.
What are your expectations for the team this season?
The expectations are to have a great summer, and really kind of dig deep into our culture and our team build, and build a really competitive team that can compete for a Big 12 championship. I think if you have that standard and you can be knocking on a door of that, I think the other things, the getting to the NCAA tournament, finding a way to a Final Four, winning a national championship are all achievable. So, we know we're in a great conference, which we really enjoyed playing in last year. And obviously it looks like it's going to be, as tough, if not tougher this year. So we want to be really competitive in the Big 12 is kind of our first focus.
You've been building up the endurance to coach for Team USA. What would you say the major differences are into coaching Team USA to a normal college basketball season?
I don't know if there's much difference, because once you're behind the scenes, you're, hey, what do we got to get better at? And, where are our greatest advantages? I just think when I say build up my endurance, it probably takes a little bit more than people realize to run a practice. And if you're doing 2 practices a day and planning and, and then digesting and planning and digesting and then out on the court, it's a lot. And it takes a lot of energy to engage with the guys and make sure that, we're sharp. So when you do that over a 2-week period, and then there's this thing called game stress. At some point you're going to be down 9-2, or at some point somebody's going to go on an 8-0 run. And you know what you're usually not, as a NCAA coach, used to feeling in the summer? Game stress. So you just have to account for that. It does take something, and you come out of some of those games, and I'm like, and I know you guys might have looked at a few of the scores last year and said, oh, they're just rolling the ball and easy. Man, I didn't feel like that. I remember looking back to the bench to Grant and Micah and being like, what are we up? How much time's left? We got to finish this thing off. So, I just think that's just the curse of coaching is just making sure my energy's in a good place, and my energy and enthusiasm are in a great place, for all things in my life, Arizona, my family, USA basketball. So I'm in a good way.
One question about the roster too. Cuff is not playing this time, right? He was your top scorer last year.
Yeah.
And do you know why, or does he have other commitments?
He just told me he wanted to go get ready for the college season. Darius is a good player and he's a great young man, and I'm wishing him nothing but the best.
Speaking of the roster here in Arizona, do you anticipate adding anyone else, or is the 12 plus some walk-ons?
I don't even know what our number is. We're always looking. We're always looking to add a piece here and there. So, I think we're, down the line with, a thing or two. So, I think we'll be in good shape.
I think those 3 walk-ons will come back for sure. And, with this new the house settlement, the way it worked out, you could take more. You have 12 plus 3, I think.
I don't know if you could take more. You can retain walk-ons you already had, which is the right thing to do. I looked at that from day one. I'm like, you're literally going to tell a kid that's 17, 18 years old that they can't be on a team because of a federal settlement? That made no sense to me. So thank goodness, the judge was tough, and she figured that out, because I know a lot of people just wanted to throw that in to get done, but she really stuck to it, and I think that's, to me, that was showed that she has great character and compassion for young people, and so I'm excited that those guys get grandfathered in.
Ben's last performance last night.
We can keep going. I can keep going. I got you guys. Okay. That time. I got nothing going today. Huh? Sonoran dogs? Really? You don't like Sonoran dogs?
Oh, my
Steve,
God.
Comments because of me.
he's a New Mexico guy. He's got a different talent.
I'm just going to have to think differently here. So let's get back to that question. You knocked me off my thought here.
Ben's performance last night, just your thoughts.
It was awesome. Ben and TJ they're doing Arizona proud. And we obviously know how good of players those guys are and how important they were to this place. And, be able to, flip on the TV and, I had a few things going on, so I was kind of in and out. But I remember I flipped it on one time and they talked about, the dominant performances and the game changers in the game were, TJ McConnell and Ben Mather. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And I think it's awesome. I'm so proud of those guys for the way they, they represent our program. And, Arizona basketball is in a good place. And you know what? We're also hungry to fight for more. So I'm excited where we're at. I'm proud of the way those guys are represented us on the biggest stage in the world. And I'm not surprised, because those guys are great competitors and they're great players.
Right now, it looks like Carter is probably going to be a lottery pick in the upcoming draft. Just your thoughts on what he was able to do at Arizona and how he's developed into this player.
Carter's a great young man. Obviously we were fortunate to have him in our program. He represented himself, well, in all areas. Carter's simple, and Carter's a 100 percentile character, and he's 100 percentile talent. And to me, when you have that, it's hard to bet against him. I think Carter's going to be tremendously successful. Obviously, his best days in basketball are ahead of him. He had a real impact on us here. I'm a big believer that, he's going to be a really good NBA player. And, all the accolades and attention he's getting is well-deserved. And I'm excited to see, what he can do in the coming years in the NBA.
Non-portal, or the one portal addition you've done to this point, Evan Nelson, what made him a fit here for what you were looking for?
We knew we needed Conrad Martinez is a really good basketball player, and I love that guy. But Conrad deserves to be a starting player, somewhere. He works so hard, and he's so motivated and tough, that just obviously I didn't think that was going to be able to happen here, especially next year. So, we had a great meeting, and he decided to move on, and we knew we needed more help, in the backcourt. Obviously we knew we had a good idea Braden was coming, and, I think, there's no doubt in my mind Braden, is a point guard and can do a lot of point guard things. But we also wanted a little bit more experience. So, Evan was available, and our staff brought him to me, and, it doesn't take you long. You talk to Evan, one time, and you see his character, you see his seriousness, and the thing, that I really saw was just his Tucson roots are real, and his love for Arizona basketball is real. And to me, when you have a good player that has that, you got to pay attention to it. And so he's been great to have around. We've been on the court with him the last few days and got to kind of see him work a little bit. And we're excited for what he can add to this team.
One following up on Carter, I think some of us knew what you were doing and thinking early, especially early in the season. But all this talk now about Bryant's usage rate at Arizona was so low, or whatever, and now he's blowing up or whatever. Does that surprise you, or what do you make of that talk?
No. Listen. These guys these evaluators are, they're in the business of kind of projecting what the future could look like. And when you look at Carter, it's not hard to see that the future is bright. And Carter, came here, and whether he had some initial struggles, whether that's me, whether that's him, who cares? That's part of the process. Carter got a lot better throughout the course of the year, and as he improved, we improved as a team. I don't think there was any secrets about that. And Carter was a guy who came, he had high character, and was willing to play whatever role we needed him. And I know at the end of the year, people start looking at usage rate and minutes and things like that, and that's really easy to do when you're just looking through a microscope. But there's this macro part of coaching where you have to put a team together, and you're not going to win with 5 guys. And, we had other good players too, and other guys got opportunities. So that's just kind of how the seasons go sometimes. So, I'm not surprised at all, Carter's, his standing at the NBA draft where it's at. It makes a lot of sense.
Wasn't this spring at all surprising in the sense that he kind of blew up and decided to leave, that JB came back? I'm guessing you figured JB probably would come back. He had signed some rev share or whatever.
Carter signed a rev share too. There's no surprises. We worked our way, through conversations with the guys, and all the guys were great communicating with us, and they all had the opportunity to explore, what was best for them and their future, and if they decided to come back, obviously we welcomed them. If they decided to move on, we were okay with it. Listen, I'm okay with Henry. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for KJ. I'm happy for Carter. Those are good guys, and those guys, just because maybe they're not coming back here, for another year, I'm not going to hold it against them. I'm thankful for the time I had with them, and things have changed a little bit, and we'll see how they continue to look 2 or 3 years. None of us know what it's going to look like 2 or 3 years from now, so we'll see what it looks like. But I'm happy for each of those guys individually, and I'm happy where our program's at right now.
Just following up on that, sorry, Steve, was Tobe, Deli, Mo, those guys, it seemed like you had you were able to get them to commit pretty early in the process. I mean, was that part of your goal or whatever, now that you have this, this rev shoot thing where you can kind of lock guys down?
Well, those are guys that they expressed a real strong desire to come back. So we just sat down with them and figured it out. And I think anytime, the formula, if you can get 3 or 4, good returning players that were part of your rotation back, I think it's a great foundation to build on. And I think we've kind of been able to do that, each of the past, 4 seasons. We've had enough retention and added pieces, and so we're doing that same formula now. I think that's, it doesn't mean just because you want to do that formula, it doesn't mean it's going to play out that way, but I think it's a formula that's been successful for us, and we're comfortable with it.
Situation, obviously, 2 great years here, nowhere near anybody's sights of NBA stuff. Just what do you project?
Who are you talking to?
Not too many.
You and I must be talking to different people. Caleb's going to be in the NBA next year, 100%. 100%. Caleb's going to be in the NBA. I have no doubt about it. And there's this part of the evaluation process where, scouts are out doing their thing, and GMs are and stuff too, and check it. But it's very scout-driven early. And, I recruited and coached and then left, and he continued to play at Gonzaga, a kid named Andrew Nembhard. And you couldn't have told me Andrew Nembhard wasn't going to be a good NBA player. I would have argued with you all day long. Because I knew he was going to be a good NBA player. And eventually, when these decisions get worked up to, coaches and the top front office guys, they might think a little differently than the scouts. And I knew once a coach saw Andrew Nembhard, he was going to be like, what's wrong with this guy? This guy makes the right decision every time. He's tough. He's a great team guy. He's got good size. Like, show me one thing that's wrong with him. And I think that turned out pretty well. I have Caleb in the same thing. I think, the right person is going to kind of get outside of maybe some of the things that you're reading, and they're going to make a well-informed basketball decision from a basketball expert, and they're going to be like, Caleb Love's really talented. I don't know how many guys can go out and score 35 points easy on Duke. He showed you something there. And he might be a little inconsistent, something there, but I know there's not too many guys that can do that. And sometimes when you're evaluating and building a team, when a guy shows you his ceiling, you pay attention. Wow, he could score 35 on Duke in an NCAA tournament game. Let's dig deeper on this one, and dig deeper, and then figure out how can I get this guy to hit his ceiling more often, and how can I raise his floor. That's what those guys do. So I'm very confident in Caleb's opportunity that he's going to earn an opportunity to be on an NBA roster. Then from there, he's got to make the best of it.
So then a year ago, do you think he did anything specifically to show, especially ball handling or defense this past season?
I don't know. That's, I think he did get better, this year. Maybe the numbers don't always indicate it, but I just think there was I think he was a better player this year than he was the year before. So I got a lot of belief in Caleb.
Big 12 schedule going from 20 to 18, just your thoughts on that, and playing Kansas twice this upcoming season. It was announced today.
Oh, was it announced today? Okay. Oh, it was great. Listen, Kansas is a great team. Come on, they ran the Big 12 for a lot of years, but I think we all know who's running the Big 12 now, and it's some school over there in East Texas, So we got our eyes on everybody, and obviously Arizona and Kansas playing is it's a great thing, and we got to play them twice last year within the span of 5 days or whatever, in March. So it was awesome, and it's great that they're coming here for our fans, but all in all, it's going to be a tough 18-game deal. I'm glad. I'm excited to see how the 18 games are going to work. I think it gives us a chance to have a bye, at some point in, January, February, which I think is really important for your team. It gave us an opportunity to have 2 more games we could schedule. And so that's kind of where the door opened for us to add a 19th home game, I don't buy tickets to the game, but I know maybe you guys probably don't either, but a lot of people do. So I think you can kind of do the math on, 14,500 times the average price. That's a great day for Arizona.
What was the thought, I mean, Yormark said something before last season that he wanted to look at you guys in Kansas playing twice, like maybe because of fans and maybe a ESPN or whatever. They're also making you play BYU twice, which I guess is sort of something the TVs would want. Do you agree with that? I mean, and then of course you have ASU as well as your other partner, but for doubles. But do you guys want to play those tough? The top teams play each other in those double plays.
I mean,
or is it more of a conference media rights decision?
I mean, listen, the conference made the decision. No one asked me my opinion, and so I'm supportive of it. I mean, obviously, we want to play great games, and I think one thing we ended up looking at last year is I don't have the number right in front of me. I think we played like 23 quad one games. So we want to play those games. And I think the year before we might have only played like 13 or something, so, something like that. I mean, there's something deal. So we want to play in those tough games. And, the conference office and Brett, in charge of it are going to be aggressive, doing everything they can to put Big 12 basketball in the best position it can be in going forward. And so I'm sure, there's talks behind the scenes about, getting certain teams to play each other, and I don't know what formula they use to pick Kansas and BYU. I don't know if it was just an arbitrary, hey, let's do this because it'd be good for the conference, or if there was some sort of number formula, because they work off stuff. They work off kind of average net rating, and there's a preseason coaches ranking you have to do and things like that. So.
Yeah, if you guys as coaches said, okay, if you've got your geographic rival, you got to play SU. So you got two left to double. Is there a general thought you want to play as tough as you can, or maybe you get Kansas in a second division team?
When you look at it like that, and you're like, man, our schedule's so much tougher than everybody else's. Then when you take a step back and you look at like, well, who does Texas Tech play twice? And you're like, oh. That's pretty tough. They play Houston twice and maybe somebody. It's like, I just think, to me, like every scenario you look at, it seems pretty difficult to me. I don't think there's this is what I know. There's no lightweights in any of this stuff, and especially now with the transfer portal and Big 12 teams having access to NIL. I mean, those teams went out and reloaded and loaded up. So I mean, there's going to be. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. And I don't think you're going to be able to convince me today that some team's going to be terrible, because they might end up being really good.
One guy I didn't think you've talked about that we've heard was CD Gouye. Is that? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. And what do you think can you tell me about him a little bit? And is he a guy that can help you basically, or do you think he's more developmental?
Well, I mean, maybe both. I don't think it's impossible to be both those things. I mean, he's a really talented young player. I'm sure physically there's some development needs to happen, and maybe even some skills have to be developed too. But I think we're starting from a really good spot. He's got great length. He's a left-handed guy, which is always interesting for a post player. And, he moves well. He protects the rim well. I mean, he's shown the ability maybe to be able to switch on some ball screens. So he has a lot of really interesting things you want to look at. And so we're excited. We think, he really adds, another dimension of talent to the program and depth. And I'm excited for him to get over here and get to work and kind of see, once he gets over here and we get our hands on him, we'll figure out, have a better idea what the transition looks like for him.
When you played against USC, you kind of tangentially saw the media attention around Bronny, and now you're going to have Bryce coming in here. Was there any hesitancy of the outside noise of having the player of a famous NBA athlete? I mean,
no. I don't think that's fair to Bryce. Bryce obviously has a great family. And sometimes I think it's unfair to a kid like Bryce that people are kind of making decisions on his future, not his family's future, on Bryce's future, based on who his parents are. I think Bryce deserves to run his own race. I hope the people of Tucson, the students and people around the University of Arizona and the media all respect that. I mean, he's a 17-year-old kid who, who's got really good potential, but he's 17 and he's just moved away from home and he's running his own race. Let's give him some space and let him kind of develop into his own man. And we treat Bryce just like we treat every other guy. He shows up every day with a smile on his face. He's got a little bit of a wrist issue right now that's holding him back for a little bit, but I think he'll be on the court shortly. So that's my hope for him. My hope for him is everyone gives him space and kind of lets him just develop in his own version of Bryce James. And I think from what I've seen, there's a lot of potential there, and there's a great young man. He is a great young man. So let's let that come out, and let's not overwhelm him with stuff that really he has no control over.
Who's here now, and do you expect guys to all be here by the time you get back from Switzerland, or what's kind of
That would be the hope. That would be the hope. Is when I get back, is that basically we have the whole team here for a good segment of the summer, and we're kind of pushing a lot of our summer staff back maybe a little bit later. Traditionally, we'll be pretty much heading into August. We're done, and give our guys a good break. We're kind of maybe going to do, some of our break a little bit earlier this summer. So when I get back, we can really get to it for a good period of time.
you guys are here now?
Oh man, just numbers. I mean, a lot of guys. Obviously Koa's here, Bryce is here, Braden's here. I don't know, who am I missing, Chris? Dwayne's here, Mo's here, Tobe's here, Evan's here, Addison's here. I think that's the 8 that are kind of here right now. Appreciate you guys. We worked overtime today.